moving forward to any sort of endeavors. It is true that from a process of price control, we have been evolving into a system of joining and according prices. And this has been respected by the National Executive. And there are direct consequences from those agreements. And today, in Venezuela, Venezuela is almost producing the 100% of the goods that it consumes in terms of food. So in the production of food, in the industry, and the need for the substitution of imports. As we continue to substitute imports, we will become stronger and face all of these needs. So import substitution is reaching an agreement so that these prices are respected. We were saying that it's curious that the US dollar, when it comes up, then the prices automatically change. And they say that the euro or the other, and they are all experts in macroeconomics and finances. But when the US dollar is dropping its price, curiously, then nothing seems to change. So the prices are not going down. So look at this. This caused an effect, this idea of calling the attention of this, because we are being reported that the prices that were agreed upon were respected over the ups and downs of the US dollars of the last few days. So we're looking for tools in order to support this project and this process of the national government. And also, at this moment, something that in an imminent manner we need to work with in the National Assembly is the proposal on behalf of the workers, a law that adapts to the new times for the defense of the income of Venezuelans. Just as every other law that we are coming upon, well, this will of course appear in base of these circumstances, a new bill that will be discussed. Here we have the legislative plans, 2026-2027. When we reach December 15th of this year, I hope that we have a positive balance in this regard of the Assembly and all its legal instruments for the discussion, the consultation, and the sanction of these laws. So in the presence of your honorable deputies, this is the legislative process 2026-2027. The deputies of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela that are in favor of approving this process 2026-2027 on this National Assembly, do the accorded sign. It is approved by a qualified majority. Thank you so much, lawmakers. Following point, the discussion of the partial reform of the hydrocarbon law, according to what is established on the 104 article. This point, Mr. President. I will give the word to the following lawmaker. We're looking at the moment at this session, the second parliamentary session of the National Assembly of Venezuela. We're looking at this session that is underway right now as the lawmakers are about to discuss the partial reform of the hydrocarbon law. There's an article in the Constitution that established that every reform of the organic law is an organic law itself, and it must be admitted by the National Assembly before the discussion is initiated. That is why we need to vote for the character of the law before it is presented. So, honorable lawmakers who are in favor of accepting the organic character of the project of partial reform of the hydrocarbons law, please show the usual sign. Qualified majority, it is approved, the organic character. Now we go to Deputy Camacho. Looking at this session that is about to debate the proposal of the acting president of partial reform of the hydrocarbons law in Venezuela. We're about to listen. President of the National Assembly, Deputy Pedro Infante, First Vice President of the National Assembly, Grecia Colmenares, Second Vice President of the National Assembly, also Secretary Maria Alejandra Hernandez, colleagues, lawmakers, deputies, and the people of Venezuela. Today we are summoned to this commission in order to see the motives and to talk about the reform of the organic law of hydrocarbons, a law that the National Executive came here, presented by Acting President Delcy Rodriguez of the Republic of Venezuela, a work that the Executive has been doing year after year of successes in the realms of hydrocarbons. The oil industry at a world level is undergoing a process of transformation, and it needs agile frameworks that are secure and attractive for investment. Venezuela has one of the largest reserves of hydrocarbons in the planet and is not outside of that reality. In this scenario, an international scenario that has been evolving in this framework of high competitivity, where capitals are going towards places that are not only offering resources, but also regulatory frameworks that are predictable and adaptable. At this moment, the global industry of hydrocarbons is facing a transition and an energy transition that is accelerated. And the volatility of prices is demanding countries like Venezuela to come into that global competitive market with these international practices. That is why in this organic law of hydrocarbons that was sanctioned in the year 2006, marked an important advance in Venezuela that was recovering that industry after the year 2003. And today, almost 20 years ago, we're looking at some of these statements that are taking place at this moment. And the legislative framework that needs to be adapted to these times between private sectors and public sectors, making the increase of the production accessible with a focus on the energy transition and productive peace. 2026 come the first mixed companies, and the creation of that first organic law that was an important legacy of President Hugo Chávez Frías, that worked and functioned as the first step of that participation of the private capital in the oil industry and minery industry. That is why this reform has three big areas of modification. It's 18 articles. There are discussion and modification of the articles. In first place, we're incorporating a successful model of business that come from the anti-blockade legislation and the guarantee of human rights, including those that you already know, the contracts of productive participation, where the enterprise is assuming its own risk and costs. The state does not want any debt. The retribution consists in the participation on a percentage of the production that is fiscalized. Second place, mechanisms are proposed in order to guarantee the viability of economical projects on the non-developed zones like greenfields. As the acting president said in the presentation of the annual plan, these fields that have not been developed need a balance in order to build the fiscal realm, because there are so many that a lot of investment is needed, but in order to achieve that structural need, we also need flexibility. So the profits need to be able to come down a bit in order to attract investment and produce more in the future. In the third place, also to raise the judicial guarantees in the sector of hydrocarbons, incorporating mediations and independent mechanisms for the resolution of conflicts, always under the Constitution of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. And to conclude, this project of reform is a step towards the modernization of the energy sector, assuring that this will continue to be the engine of growth of our country. To insist and sharing what the Dr. Jorge Rodriguez and Dr. Delcy Rodriguez were sharing, and also our dear President Nicolás Maduro, today kidnapped. My greetings to President Nicolás Maduro and First Combatant Cilia Flores. True sovereignty is not about the static control of resources under the soil, but the capacity of transforming them in goods for the Venezuelan people. And I tell you, lawmakers, so that you will proceed to the voting of this bill. We were listening to the Deputy Orlando Camacho, also President of the Commission, in this moment as he was presenting this project of reform for the organic hydrocarbons law in Venezuela, an initiative of the acting President Delcy Rodriguez, who had presented this project in order to strengthen the hydrocarbons industry in Venezuela. Important to see as the lawmakers are proceeding towards a voting process on the law. This was the partial law. One of the arguments that were just presented had to do with advancing and also modifying the frameworks in order to make them flexible and also adapted to current times. One of the key aspects was the idea that true sovereignty over those resources is to be able to transfer them into benefit for the Venezuelan people. So a balance between the need to adapt those frameworks and make them accessible for the people to benefit from the Venezuelan resources. Let's continue listening. Colleagues, deputies, today I need to come here to the legislative power to show the position of democratic action, the party that I lead, in the condition of General Secretary, and also of the Democratic Alliance. The Democratic Alliance that participated in the last 5 years during this same legislative assembly. And today we're here as well. Yesterday, we had to show our positions in many of these subjects, and in some we had coincidences with the faction, with the majority faction, the governing faction, and in others we've had differences, and we've shown them here. Today, the legislative power is dealing with an important, very important issue, transcendental issue, of which I think that no Venezuelan has yet, even with ideological differences with my party, no one will be able to say that democratic action is linked to the oil matter. From the beginning of the founder of Democratic Action, they wrote a book that was important to go over Venezuela politics and oil. In the period from the 45 to 48, that was a relevant moment, and then during a government of democratic action, the nationalization of the oil industry, of which our adversaries, and I am not exempting Dr. Delcy Rodriguez, President of Venezuela, who, when she came here, described it as not relevant. But we are not going to address that discussion. We needed, and we knew that that was transparent. We turned over the page because we know that what is at stake right now is something more important than the discussion. What's at stake is the destiny of Venezuela. What's at stake is the future of democratic stability in the country. Maybe some radical sectors who have played to destabilize the country asking for economical sanctions in order to suffocate the government that is now leading the country, without knowing the history of the country and the history of other countries, that when there is irrationality, there is irresponsibility, and what comes about that is a chaos and a disaster in society. We from Democratic Alliance, you'll never see us playing with the destiny of the country. And it's about time, after 20 years of the current law of hydrocarbons, we should have an adjustment. And here we have the law of partial reform of the organic law of hydrocarbons. In the name of our party and the Democratic Alliance to which our country belongs, we welcome this bill. And from now, we say that we will continue studying it and will do the necessary consultations. And before the country, we will continue stating our point of view, but in no case a point of view that is focused on obstructing. How much irrationality will we see among Venezuelans that damages the country so much? The president of this National Assembly, some may say that I'm copying a phrase from him, but I could say maybe that he copied what I said. So many problems that the country has, so many problems that the country has, only because many have not governed with Venezuelan sense, and the radicals, because instead of doing a constructive opposition, have done a destructive opposition. So many problems that the country is facing. It's a quantity that the great architect of the universe gave the country. But as long as we are not exploiting them, as long as we are not commercializing them with a project of dignity and of those who have the technology and the necessary resources come to provide them, but knowing that their technology and their resources do not make them own that oil, and for them in these difficult times, today when President Trump has said and has called on the leaders, the oil businessmen, here is the United States willing to uplift the sanctions that have damaged the country so much. And we are willing for them to come, but for them to come to invest more than $100,000 million, and he himself in the White House has said that he is proposing an agreement with Venezuela with $500 billion. But we need to give, and Venezuela needs to act like a decent and responsible country. We need to give them judicial guarantees for them to invest in the country. We need to guarantee as well the transparency for those funds that are coming in. And I'm saying this even exposing myself to any reaction from the radicals, from the disposition of the acting president Delcy Rodriguez when she said that she would create a transparent fund so that any of us could be following it. Democratic Action and Democratic Alliance. I hope that many other groups that are here right now will also act in the same way. We are going to support and back this judicial tool that is being proposed, and saying Venezuelans that so many hopes hold in their hearts that in the face of this new reality, they may be able to work towards the development and the prosperity of the country. They who are waiting for those new funds and new investments in order to resolve the problems that they're facing. Democratic Action and Democratic Alliance will be according to what the times demand in terms of doing of Venezuela a free Venezuela and of Venezuelans that will lead everyone to happiness and greatness. This is the position of my party, Democratic Action, and of Democratic Alliance. I salute you and hope for the success of the entire Venezuela. We were listening to Deputy Bernabé Gutierrez, one of the members of the opposition in the parliament, expressing his support of his party and also of the alliance, the Democratic Alliance. Let's recall that this is the first point of the Legislative Assembly that is being presented at this moment in the National Assembly. Let's continue listening. We're about to hear from the rest of the deputies. Let's recall that we are seeing this session of the National Assembly in which the lawmakers are about to vote on the project for the partial reform of the organic law of hydrocarbons that was proposed by acting President Delcy Rodriguez, with the aim of modifying the legal frameworks, among other matters, regarding the hydrocarbon industry for the possibilities of future investments in this moment regarding a key engine for the Venezuelan economy. Let's continue listening. We're here today at a crucial point for the country. After the national constitution, the hydrocarbons law has become, in the reality of Venezuela, of a law of maximum importance. Venezuela, that it's an oil country, that has the largest reserves in the world, we cannot have a law that is not being discussed through different sectors of the country. Just like the Constitution is a social pact and comments on the life of every one of us, well, the topic of oil and the hydrocarbons law is fundamental. Taking the word of the citizen president who talked today stating that we needed to accelerate production, I say that I think that we're falling short. We're falling short with the law, even if it's true that there is a law that says that we need to hand in the project 24, 48 hours before. I think that in a project of rectification in this law that is of great importance, and other laws that come afterwards, will be able to hand in these proposals before in order for us to read and handle and debate these proposals. From this block, we're clear about the main topics that this law should include. Of course, legal security. We have seen in the Republic different demands that have been presented, and whoever is going to invest needs legal security in order not to face the risks of possible future circumstances. The opening to private capital. Here we need to understand reality, that for private capital to come here does not mean that we are losing sovereignty. And the nationalization did not bring necessarily a benefit for the national industry, and a number of other points regarding the hydrocarbons law. But I cannot lose the opportunity that we are talking about the oil subject in order to silence and also to demonstrate and speak at this moment that the parliamentary group Liberty will present an organic law that reserves the services to the industry that is linked to the hydrocarbon oil industry. That industry brought together a great killing, and allow me the expression, because of the number of nationalizations and what were the consequences in 2009 in the state of Zulia, according to the numbers of PDVSA year 2009. They said that regarding 749,000 barrels were being produced. Today, we have a little bit less than 200,000. And why did that happen? We nationalized the activity completely. Families needed to migrate, and the eastern coast became a desert. And I'm not exaggerating. We have members here. So a lot of people who committed suicide as well, workers from those industries. So if we that are here in this parliamentary work and working towards the increased production, if we reform this law and we allow for the privates to participate in this industry, and particularly national private sectors that know about the topic, not only in the fields but also in the Maracaibo Lake, we need to generate employment, we need to generate wellness, and of course that oil leads to benefits where it needs to do so, like hospitals and education. And for the reasons that I have talked about, And the Constitution says that the oil fields are from the Republic. We have not been able to read the project, the bill, as we would have wanted, so we are going to abstain our vote, but we are going to contribute with everything that we think is necessary for such a law. I'm giving the word now to the coming deputy. We are looking at this moment at this ordinary session of the National Assembly in Venezuela. We are seeing the first discussion, the first debate regarding the bill that sets to accomplish a partial reform of the hydrocarbons law in Venezuela, a project that was presented by acting President Delcy Rodriguez and is now at this moment being debated as we see the members of the different blocs within the parliament expressing their points, their views regarding this bill. Fellow lawmakers, we are looking at a historical debate because with oil exploitation, we have the great history of the Venezuelan people for sovereignty, for national independence, for the sovereign use of resources for development, for the integral development of the nation. And in that long road of over a century, we have found the revolutionary forces, the Bolivarian forces, the workers, the patriotic forces in the defense of this natural resource of oil, great, important, key source of energy of last century and the current century. A hard task, but very successful, as this 25 years of Bolivarian revolution will show. With Commander Hugo Chavez, we managed a victory, a historic victory for the homeland and for the Venezuelan people, with the true and just nationalization of our oil and the national industry. From that nationalization and that historical step, with the work of Commander Hugo Chavez and the support of the people, the working people, brought together huge benefits and strengths for the homeland, raising the level and quality of life higher than before, because this was being exploited for the national goals and national benefits. And we had productive forces because this was invested in the development, in the independent development of the economy. And of course, this exacerbated contradictions of our times, that are the contradictions between a nation that is seeking its progress on the framework of independence and imperialist forces that are trying to sack our resources. So this year started in a dramatic way, and as an expression of that contradiction. And today, we are here in this National Assembly in order to ratify, first, the independent character of the Venezuelan government and state, and all institutions of Venezuela, including this National Assembly, that is exercising its legislative work in this matter of great strategic relevance as oil, and we do it with great responsibility, and we do it with the possibilities that we have in the country. Either we ground ourselves in reality or we are destined to failure. And what is our reality? In general, in terms of the country, and in particular regarding oil. First, a blockade that curiously is not appearing in the speeches of some of the speakers of the opposition. That says a lot, really. An opposition that is not completely firm in order to demand something that demands so much firmness, such as the independence of the people, the defense of the working people of Venezuela. This blockade has generated great problems in the national development from its onset with the first imperialist sanctions in the year 2017 that were targeting PDVSA. A situation of great complexity. The capitals that were investing here in the midst of a legislation that was generated by Commander Hugo Chavez that was guaranteeing sovereignty and control over our natural resources. Those capitals flew, the production weakened, the selling of the Venezuelan oil was prohibited, something that only makes sense if the oil was put on international markets. Then anyone who did that was sanctioned. And now we have to continue doing our greatest effort to increase production. In the last years of that blockade, and that is demanding of us that the norms and the rules and the laws of that industry is adjusting to a new reality. The law that was approved by us, I had the honor of presenting it by the Constituent Assembly, is a framework for us and continues to be a framework. And what we are stating at this moment is that this hydrocarbon law is adjusting to new practices and have been evaluated and have been successfully applied for our country. This will be the reform of the hydrocarbons law for the new moments, for a new time of the increase of production, for the prosperity of our people, but also for this time in which we will have all our efforts concentrated in the consolidation and deepening of Venezuelan independence that has to do with the control of our oil resources. Thank you so much, dear lawmakers. We're looking at the debate, this first discussion that is taking place in order to reform the hydrocarbons law that has been presented by Acting President Delcy Rodriguez. The different speakers have presented their own proposals and opinions regarding the proposal that was presented for the National Assembly to debate. Let's continue listening. I want to recall the economical impact of that measure that was promoted by different sectors of the opposition and the losses. I know of the impact that were brought about by that support, and we also needed to identify the different enterprises in order to reactivate. Because of their summoning to the oil blockade, so we are, at this moment, I want to make these people responsible. The government did what it had to do. And now we need to see what we need to do in order to recover those enterprises, as Commander Hugo Chavez said, so that the sector were recovered because of the oil stoppage that was promoted at that moment. We are talking about a moment in which there was a catastrophic scenario. So I just want to recall that we are talking about a very important law that was approved 20 years ago. At that moment, we needed to talk about the effect of prices, and now we're talking about the importance of the investment in technology that and that relevance is now contemplated in this reform proposal. As the President of the National Assembly was stating that if these resources, we do not promote them with investment, with the possibility of exploiting it, we will not be able to turn it into benefits. Only 2.8% will be able to be exploited. 2.8%. But if we raise the production to 5,000 barrels, we would need that investment in order to exploit those resources. So the approval of this law is very important. I want to invite these people to join this debate. There's a people that is awaiting for this decision in order for this to improve employment and social services in hospitals. We cannot wait around for this. The people of Venezuela have suffered too much during these years, and they have the right to have this. I think that this is the correct thing to do. This is adjusting the framework in order for the business to be a lot more transparent, and so that the investment comes for these resources that are so important for the Republic, because I think that math is so important for this moment. So for Venezuela, passing for the moment that we are right now to where we need to go requires a great effort, but the local installations are not sufficient. We need to improve the infrastructure. We need to recover infrastructure. To recover that one that exists, and also to develop the green fields, for example, the oil fields that are not being exploited right now. We're listening to some of these statements that are being held right now at the National Assembly. Let's recall to anyone who is listening that we are looking at the debate at this moment that is debating and evaluating the proposal that was brought to the National Assembly by the acting President Delcy Rodriguez regarding the partial reform of the hydrocarbons law. Let's continue listening. It's not easy. The oil business is one thing, but this is another thing. We have two different topics. Let's go over these issues that are being debated right now. They need to go to the international forums here, also come back here to Venezuela. So I think that we need to call anyone to reflection. We've seen that bill. We've recently seen the bill. The acting president was here last week. There are different procedures, administrative procedures, in order for the bills to reach. So I invite you to get in the same page so we can have an agreement, so we can join together in order for the benefit of the nation.
¿Nadie más anotado en el derecho de palabra? ¿Se va a cerrar? Mire, diputado, con todo respeto a los diputados de la bancada de oposición, si ustedes quieren solicitar un derecho de palabra...
Well, Deputy, with all my respect, if you want to ask for the word here at the National Assembly, we need to request it at the moment. Oh, you did? Who did you request it to?
Tráigamelo, por favor.
Let's recall that at this moment we are looking at this session, ordinary session of the National Assembly. And at this moment, the different lawmakers are presenting the positions of each bloc regarding the proposal of the partial reform of the hydrocarbons law that was presented by acting President Delcy Rodriguez. We're looking at the different presentations that are being presented at this moment. We continue to listen to what is happening at this moment. We're willing to approve and back any of the legal frameworks that will help for investment and capitals, the presence of capitals in the country, in order to contribute to the development of the nation.
Significa un aumento en la producción de nuestro principal activo, que es la industria petrolera, y ese aumento en esa producción.
And that production is going to be reflected in the benefit of the people. For us, comrades, it is vital that enterprises, national and international enterprises, feel at ease that we are here to work to do control over the state institution, the law, the executive power, and we can all be together. That is what the country is asking us. This country is asking us in all of these conflicts. We want to propose that in the framework of the discussion of this law to include another law of special assignation for states and municipalities. As the President announces the creation of funds, social funds, we consider order So there is a board that is the one in charge of that. If someone wants to substitute it, it is not their right. Go ahead.
President, we consider that those social funds and the infrastructure must be contemplated within these instruments so important, but also we believe, President, that if we want a healthcare system and the public services impact in a direct and quick manner, we must understand that we have 335 majorships that have the infrastructure and are awaiting a special assignation to repair the schools, to give food to our people. And we want basically to ask you to put as the epicenter of the form of this law the protection of the workers of the oil sector that are seeing that there is a huge transformation, evident transformation, and the mixture enterprises. It is not going to be an enterprise of the Venezuelan state. We must contemplate the security of workers, the security of their families, and the social security of all Venezuelans must be at the epicenter of this instrument. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deputy. We hope that the effects of the consultations in this permanent commission of the hydrocarbons of the Assembly, National Assembly, and also the second discussion, we can go deep into the topics, most important topics of this law, and of course, every aspect as is contemplated by the Constitution. So, many of the concerns that you have brought to us by the deputies, I hope that you can sustain them with strength in the commission of discussions in the plenary during the second discussion. If there's no one else that wants to speak, we're going to close. Is closed this discussion in consideration of honorable deputies, women and men, that are in favor of passing in the first discussion the project of reform of the organic law of hydrocarbons of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, according to what is established in Article 104 of the integral norm and debate of the National Assembly. Please manifest it, raising your hands. Majority qualified is evident. It is approved in first discussion. The bill of partial reform of the organic law of the hydrocarbons law of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Following topic, the first discussion of the bill for the socioeconomic benefit of the norm 104 of the debate of the National Assembly. This is the topic, Mr. President. I'm going to give the floor for the bill to be presented, Deputy Ramon Lobo. And let's Deputy make his presentation. The Secretary is asking me to first to be approved the character of the organic law in consideration. Honorable deputies and women and men who are in favor of passing the organic law of the project of organic law of the protection of socioeconomic rights of the Venezuelans as is contemplated by the Article 104 of the National Assembly. Please raise your hands. It is approved. The organic character major level. You may have the floor. Please, we recall you for everyone who is at this moment entering into this broadcasting. We are witnessing the discussion of the bill of the protection of socioeconomic rights of the Venezuelan people. Dear deputies, please let me begin pointing that the economy, as other sciences, is dynamic, and in function of the circumstances, it must go updating according to the new times, and this new law is a reflection of this. It is going in the same direction to adequate ourselves to the new times, political and economic ones that are being lived by the homeland. In this sense, as we were pointing to, as the president signaled, and the acting president referred to 3 laws. Inside of them, there are the ones that we are going to share with you, and has to do with the organic law for the protection of the socioeconomic rights of Venezuelans, a law that is going to substitute the decree of organic law of the fair prices of 2015, when circumstances at that point were different from the ones that we are facing today. In that order, please allow me that, as every organic law, it has its fundaments in the Constitution, particularly in Article 114 and 117. One says that the 117 points to the need or the guarantee for the people to have access to services of quality and at the proper time. And it has been one of the elements in which the population have been attacked the most, precisely in 2015, when there was an attack to the economy that has been maintained with corruption, shortages, speculations that led to that instrument. And today, in the current scenario we are living, we are saying that this new structure that has the aim of guaranteeing the harmonic development of the national economy, but also to guarantee the access to the services, to the basic services fundamental for the development of the people of Venezuela. Likewise, this instrument has as its key element to defend the income, the salaries of Venezuelans, women and men, and if we have the access in the proper time and at correct prices, we are going to have a positive impact, and is what we are going to be naming the real wages. If there is a greater consumption, we are going to be stimulating the production. It is a positive impact. Under this new focus is that is why we have this instrument that has 96 articles distributed in 5 chapters, one key chapter of general dispositions, and a second one that has to do with the rights and duties and guarantees, and a second one that has to do with the constitutionality. And we are mentioning the creation of a superintendency of the socioeconomic rights of Venezuelans. And something we want to highlight here, it has to do with the creation of a national system of observation of prices and national system of observation of prices, which is a point of encounter for us between the state and the economic agents to fix the prices in a mutual agreement to guarantee the access for the population, but also the sustainability of the productive case. In no point the state is seeking for anyone to produce under the prices fixed. That we have to make a rational production, because it guarantees the merchandise as well. In a jointly manner with this system, we have the committees of consumers, and it is going to articulate with the popular power in the defense of the axes that we have been pointing at and articulating for years. And the fourth chapter and fifth chapter has to do with the responsibilities and, of course, with the structure of sanctions, that beyond being of applying sanctions, it also has a new focus with the aim of having a new vision that is being addressed inside the new system that we are now creating under these circumstances. And I want to highlight this once more. Under that statement of a system of observation of prices, of encounter, we consider very important and very urgent the pass of this law that has an antecedent, a precedent that is very important, and it was signaled by the acting president Delcy Rodriguez when she said, she referred to the internal supply that allows the access for consumers. And in the face of possible attacks, we consider that this law is going to allow us to consolidate this encounter point between consumers and producers. We can guarantee as a state products of quality, products in the correct timely manner, and to guarantee the wages of the population, the real wages keeps increasing. This is all, President. Those were the statements of the deputy of this project, this bill, presented by Deputy Ramon Lobo. Deputy, I'm going to give the floor to Deputy Rubén Limas. You know that I had a T-shirt that used to say, those who only know about medicine, they don't know nothing at all. We, from the bench of the Democratic Alliance, are going to vote favorably this first discussion because we consider that it is a historical opportunity and a responsibility that is unpostponable for each and every one of us. And we aspire that the discussion that we need to have afterwards, article by article, we could effectively to consolidate a law that develops with a strong manner the socioeconomic benefit of the Venezuelan people. The passing of this law is not just a mere legal text, it's the materialization of what it established, our constitution, and is a right for the Venezuelan people. We want that this law be constituted in a guidance that allow us in an effective way to have an efficient economy, a transparent economy, and an economy that has a character profoundly humane. Also must guarantee the right for the access of the service of quality, and to stop as well phenomena like speculation, and in favor of the dignity of the Venezuelan people and in favor of the dignity of the pockets of the Venezuelan people. Its passing must be a firm step towards a Venezuela more just and more fair and more solidary, and to guarantee as well its economic development. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deputy Rubén Lima. Now I'm going to give the floor to Deputy Nora Brasho. Go ahead, Deputy. Today, the Venezuelan Parliament is moving forward in its legislative agenda of today, and by majority of votes, it was passed in the first discussion the bill of the hydrocarbons organic law, and also at this moment it is being performed the first discussion of the bill for the protection of the socio-economic rights of Venezuelans. President, colleagues, citizens that are watching us at this moment, Today we are called by the presentation of the project Organic Law for the protection of socioeconomic rights of the Venezuelan people, that in its discussion it has the greatest treatment for a constitution, for the democracy, with the sacred right of our people to a dignified coexistence in this space. No one can deny that the state is set to guarantee the protection of consumers. But who is protecting Venezuelans? Really, who is protecting those who earn today less than $12 less than $2 of salary, or a pensioner on less than 2 cents of dollar? Who is protecting to all the fathers and mothers that have no income? We consider that in the face of the presentation of this organic law, it must, in first instance, to work and to fight for the stability, economic stability of our country, to recover the income of Venezuelan people that have been totally beaten by an unstable economy. This must be a priority, working in a law of economic emergency for our people. And it's fundamental that from this National Assembly, this topic must be a priority as well for Venezuela. And from our bench, of Libertad bench, we are going to be willing to present this project, this bill, to retake the topic that brings us today. 117 constitutional article is not a suggestion, it's a mandate, and responsibly obliges us to. A law is not good because of what it says it could manage to achieve, but what it actually achieves on the streets, in the markets, in the stables of the families. And that is why we must, from the Libertad bench, and a few needed critics, we need to be brave to point the critic points of this project. In the first place, the fragility of the freedom of election. The project speaks on prices of services prioritized under extraordinary circumstances, and we must warn that if the state fixes prices, what it happens is killing the offer. There is no protection for consumers if the final result is an empty bag. The protection, the true protection, is abundance, the competence, not the asphyxiating control. We are discussing a law that protects the consumer towards actually a law to control consumers. The bureaucratization of vigilance is proposed with a national system of observation of prices. If transparency is fundamental, it is very needed. We are worried that this could turn into a bureaucratic. You are listening at this moment to statements of deputies that are discussing the passing of an organic law for the protection of the socio-economic rights of the Venezuelan people. And also, earlier today, there was the discussion of a bill for the partial reform of the organic law of hydrocarbon law. Authorities are saying as well that they are going to prompt the discussion of both organic laws as well, to boost the areas of attention, of legislative attention. Let's recall that as well that in this sense, the legislative plan and all of these projects are established in this agenda have been proposed by Acting President Delcy Rodriguez. Also, In this session, ordinary session of today, in the second point of its agenda, it was established in the first discussion of the partial reform of the organic law of the hydrocarbon law, which was passed with a qualified majority as well. During the debate of this legislative day, we listened to the objectives of this law that over the past few days, it was commented by deputies in several sessions of the National Assembly. This project, this bill of the organic law of hydrocarbons, was also suggested, proposed by acting President Delcy Rodriguez during the annual message to the nation a few days ago, and along with other projects, along with other bills that were already presented in the National Assembly. The current presentation was made by Orlando Camacho, President of the Permanent Commission of Energy and Petroleum of the National Assembly. Given this legislative work that was underway last week to keep moving forward this legislative plan. These legislations were presented today in the National Assembly, have three axes, fundamental axes for the country, which is to promote economy, also the guarantee for the peace and stability of the Venezuelan people, and also the consolidation of the popular democracy and popular participation in every political decision making in the country. In this sense, the legislative actions contribute and form the actions that have been taken by the popular power of the nation at the helm as well of the acting President Delcy Rodriguez for the protection of the Venezuelan people. This project that was at this moment being under discussion, which is the organic law for protection of the socioeconomic rights of the Venezuelan people, with the objective of protecting the income of workers, making an emphasis as well in the work that Venezuela and the executive power have been performing to accompany the Venezuelan people in guaranteeing peace and sovereignty of the nation. Thank you, Deputy. I'm going to give the floor now to Deputy David Uzcategui. Citizen, Vice President, colleagues, deputies, our bench have very clear the priority of this National Assembly. It is no one else but working and legislate for the recovery, economic recovery of our country, for the economic development of the Venezuelan people, for the development of social services, and for all Venezuelans to have incomes, salaries, pensions that allow us to live in a dignified manner. All that has to do in that matter for the recovery, the economic recovery of Venezuela. Our bench is going to be there supporting and without vacillations. But in this article, in this space, and I understand, Vice President, that this is the first discussion, we are not going to deny the vote. We are going to support it because we are going to go with the permanent commissions of economy to assess these topics that make noise inside of this law. For example, the creation of the national system of observation of prices that makes noise and that it is not convenient for Venezuela. If you want for the economy to move forward, to recover its income, its purchasing power, we need to stimulate that the greatest capital from inside and outside to invest in Venezuela and to boost the competence, to boost contest. Only with the announcement of the arrival of $300 million to Venezuela announced by acting president, the dollar fell down dramatically just because of the announcement. So there are elements within this legislative proposal that we need to discuss to the Permanent Commission of Economy to for this project of law be transmitted and be transformed into a quality of life for Venezuelans, for the people to live in a dignified manner, to live with their purchasing power. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President and deputies. Thank you, Deputy Scotty. Now I'm going to give the floor to other deputy. Well, this is the debate that is being generating at this hour inside the National Assembly, where the organic law for the protection of the socio-economic rights of the Venezuelan people is being discussed. The Board of Directors, deputies, women and men, and in the first place, I want to recall you for the deputies of the opposition that this country has been developing in the past few years, practically in the last decade, under circumstances of extraordinary complexity that cannot be forgotten within the analysis and any consideration that is being made, because it would be a position not only fundamental, the lack of sincerity, but also the dishonesty with the people of Venezuela and with their own conscience. The economic blockade brought a path of that is at this moment over $500,000 in losses for our economy, and the economic blockade of this country received
over $200 million. These resources, of course, in the hands of the state and of a Bolivarian and socialist force, they would have guaranteed the continuity of the gigantic social work of the Bolivarian Revolution with Commander Chavez. Gigantic social work. Which takes from you any kind of moral authority, even to make reference to aspects so vital of the development of our people, like the salary, education, health, housing, employment, etc. They don't have any moral authority to refer to that, and especially not having blockade and having supported the aggressions of imperialism. They should feel embarrassed to feel and use the words in those terms in this debate, and I'm going to make reference quickly to the following in reference to this law. For there to be no doubt and absolutely any kind of confusion, this is a law that is fundamented in responsibility and that has as a purpose a constitutional mandate. We're not inventing it here. It is an obligation that we have. But the Constitution, those who assume the Constitution is theirs, they need to be inscribed in the spirit of this law. Like we under blockade and aggression, the imperial attacks of the speculators, of the monopolies, of the enemies of the people. How we, under those conditions, transformed as we are in fact doing, the growth of the economy, the development of production in a bigger well-being. That doesn't happen in an automatic way. There are countries that are economic powers and have huge inequalities. They have mountains of poor and of poverty, and they have been dragging it in the most shameful and unconsidered way, being able to solve all of those problems. In this sense, the state has to assume that responsibility, as it is doing with the proposal of this law. Not only with that, but this is going to contribute. Only the intervention of the state can generate a just distribution of wealth, and we are acting in two lines: increasing the wealth and guaranteeing that that wealth is distributed in a fair way to take us at the point that we were at the beginning of the blockade, a prosperity level as it had never been known in the history of this country. This is a law that is not in contradiction or hits with the necessity of stimulating the productive forces of the nation. The initiative, even the private initiatives, our vision of economy is a mixed economy. Private companies and capital have done a very important contribution in the last few years, and we have recognized it to the development of this country. And I assure you that when we show this law, they're going to back it. Do you know why? Because the majority of those businessmen are not inscribed in those that speculate, in those that steal, but those who are against this law, they have the clear suspicion of being associated with those who speculate and those who steal, because precisely they're doing everything possible not so a law that attends the working people is not approved. We are completely sure, because we have done it. One last minute, because we have done it in the past. It can be brought in harmony, the development of an economy like ours, with the well-being of the people and the popular participation, which I consider to be very important. There's two ways of seeing the country. There's two ways of seeing development and the state: an elite governing at the service of the big corporations and giving their backs to the people, and the other one, which is the socialist and Bolivarian, where the state only strengthens only if the people is organized and increases their participation, and this law will be impossible to apply without the participation of the people and popular power in a way. So thank you, dear comrades. Thank you, Deputy Jesus Farias. There's no one else in the right to speak, and I want to do some closure comments on this debate. This organic project law for the socio-economical protection rights, which is one of the fundamental elements that are expressed in this exposition of motives. Firstly, it retakes the norms of protection of the consumer that were still existing up to the moment of the approval of the last law. These laws also adjust to the current moments. Second, it rescues the figure of the committees of consumers and users, and it recognizes the role of the communal councils and the organized people. Third, it has maintained the figure of a superintendent of the protection of the socio-economical rights. That is the concept, the protection of the socio-economical rights of the citizen and the people. Fourth, it creates a national system of observation, which was made reference to here. That system is a tool for the supervision and the monitoring of the prices at the time that it preserves the competency of the state. It recognizes all of the dynamics, the economical dynamics, and it also takes the different conducts that are part of the law of just prices, which turn into sanctions, and it also diminishes the discretion of the function members of the intendancy, reserving the application of measures as the closure of establishment by the authorities of the maximum authorities of this organization. It also takes the use of agreements between the consumers and users as a mechanism to guarantee the fulfilling of the law. And there is an idea that in the sports sector we worked on this type of law in this political moment, this economical current moment of the country, needs of the joining of the three Ps: the private sector, the public sector, but also of the people. And I am sure that with the three Ps working together, we will accomplish a law that is connected, of course, with the law and the project of law that we approved in the first discussion, the reform of the law of hydrocarbons, which is if we produce more petroleum, there will be more currencies for the country, and that will contribute to the incomes of the workers, of the people, of the economy in general, and this will contribute to the well-being of our people. Just to remember to the deputy that set the saving of the vote in accordance to Article 96 that it must be said to the Secretary by writing. There's no one else in this right to speak list. So in consideration, the honorable deputies that are in favor of approving in the first discussion the project of organic law for the protection of the socio-economical rights of conformity with what's established in the Article 104 of the rules interior of debate of the National Assembly due with the sign of custom. In consequence, it is declared approved in the first discussion by qualified majority the organic project law for the protection of the socio-economical rights and is sent to the Permanent Commission of Economy, Finances and Social Development to create the report for its second discussion as it's said in the different rules of the National Assembly. Next point in the order of the day, dear Secretary. First discussion of the project of organic law for the acceleration and optimization of the procedures, the administrative procedures of the public administration in conformity with what's in Article 104 of the Rules of Interior and Debate of the National Assembly. This is the entire point, Vice President. Thank you, Secretary. Well, it corresponds now to vote in organic character of this project of law in accordance to Article 203 in consideration the honorable deputies and the honorable that are in favor of approving the organic character of the project of law organic for the acceleration and optimization of procedures administrative of the public administration in conformity with what is in the Article 203 of the Bolivarian Republic's Constitution manifested with the sign of custom. It has been approved the organic character. I'm going to give the right to speak to present the project of law Deputy Maria Gabriela Vega. Good afternoon, Vice President. First, I ask for the authorization for my condition to present the law from my sitting position. Well, good afternoon. Once again, Vice President, dear parliamentary members, today we correspond to present the project in the first discussion of the organic law for the acceleration and optimization of the procedures, the administrative procedures of the public administration project of law, which is an initiative of the National Executive presented by our acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, on January 15th in her presentation of the annual message to the nation. In this moment, it is exceptional that it lived by the nation. It demands extraordinary measures to strengthen the action of the state, guarantee the well-being and the human rights of the population, the fulfilling of their essential goals, and very particularly the economical development and integral of the nation. That is why, in this sense, looking in the maximum efficiency of the acting of the state is in benefit of the people, because it constitutes one of the central objectives in these times of challenges that we have to overcome, and that are effectively we are overcoming, because always we're going to continue prevailing in our country with the men and women, with the people of Venezuela that day by day go out to do any administrative procedure, whether it's public or private. It exists a general consensus on the necessity of transforming the procedures of the state to do them simpler, faster, deeper, and especially to ensure their objectives. In general, the people are convinced that it is necessary to eradicate rules and practices that makes bureaucracy, and that obviously delay unnecessarily the results. Unfortunately, the decree with rank, value and force of law of simplification of administrative procedures currently has not been enough to resolve this situation that day by day happens. From there, the demand of a new law presented by the National Executive that allows to adopt urgent measures from the National Executive to accomplish, accelerate, and especially to optimize all of the administrative diligences in favor of the citizenship of the Venezuelan people. This project of organic law that guarantees the constitutional rights and is presented has 13 dispositions in which we establish the object, the finality, and the fundamental principles that inspire its content. Likewise, it establishes the attributions of the National Executive in matters of acceleration and optimization of procedures of the state, indicating with precision all of the consequences of all of the competencies of the executive of the President of the Republic for what to suspend, reduce, suppress, derogate, and modify procedures, authorizations, permits, and requisites in law, rules, resolutions, providence, and administrative acts, including the necessary digitalization, uniformity, and unification of those. Finally, Deputy, Citizen, President, and Vice President, the proposal of organic law, it creates a presidential commission to evaluate and propose to the National Executive the measures that need to be adopted in this matter, attending wide procedures of participation and popular consultation. To finalize, it is duty to inform that this project of law does not require budget because the executions assigned to the organs of the national public administration. On the contrary, it's possible that its development saves money to the national treasury. I invite the deputies of this important forum to join in a single voice to be able to approve this law in the first discussion and for us to go in its public consultation and approval in second discussion as it establishes the rules of interior and debate of the National Assembly and the pertinent law. Thank you, President. It is all. Thank you, Deputy Maria Gabriela Vega. We're going to give the right to speak Deputy Alfonso Campos. Good afternoon, blessings of God to all the people of Venezuela Communication Media Plenarium Directive. We are in a moment, exceptional moment of the history of the Republic, and it has been necessary, unfortunately, given the situations, to adjust what we have had to adjust for a long time. It was said by the Liberator in the speech of Angostura, making reference to the procedures associated to the administration of justice. He said it in the signaling that it was an inheritance of the legislations of the colony of the time, when he called it a judicial encyclopedia monster of 1,000 heads. It is surprising that due to the nature, the bureaucracy is part of democracy as well, and definitely something urgent must be done. From the Democratic Alliance, we support this initiative of the executive. We support the spirit of the position of this law, and we will take the observations of consideration for the formulation of the article of this law. Particular case in the attribution that the law does, according to the exposition of the motives, that the law gives attributions to the National Executive to derogate procedures, and we must remember that many of these procedures are in organic laws. To suppose an attribution of derogating an organic law goes through procedures that are of the legislative power and not of the executive power. It will be presented what has been observed, but from the Democratic Alliance, we support this initiative that we recognize is for the benefit of the Venezuelan people. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Alfonso Campos, and I'm going to give the right to speak to Deputy Encio Angelini. Very good afternoon, Vice President, colleagues, deputies. Well, I am new as well. If truly it is necessary extraordinary measures for the reality that we are living, this is a spiral with no end. The businessmen and entrepreneurs that just want to register a company need to just sign themselves in 17 organisms to be able to operate the business, and that is a reality. That is a spiral with no end, because when one finishes the last one, it must start again, and or if one is going to ask for a permit to import any product, it needs to go to the minister and then to the other minister, and when the end comes, then it must start again. So it is very complicated. But what I am concerned, and it was commented by the colleague previously, is that I believe that we have to legislate and not give and not give that work to the executive. We are the ones who have to legislate, and we have to approve that law here and not give it to the executive, as it is in the exposition of motives that says clearly the national executive in matters of acceleration and optimization of procedures and administrative procedures of the state, indicating with precision all the competences of the President of the Republic to suspend and do all the procedures that needs to be done. I believe that that is our job and it does not correspond to them. And the other thing is we need to enter modern times, and to do so when those comparisons that sometimes are very uncomfortable in other countries of the world, one can make a company simply through online, and in 48 hours one has all the permits and even bank accounts open, and that is what is wanted. And we don't have that very clear yet. And to end this, because I want to do this short, the excessive permits drown entrepreneurships, and Venezuelans lose time in that, and it leads to informality and also generates corruption. That is why, until we don't know entirely the text, we're going to observe the vote. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy. I'm going to give the right to speak Deputy Carolina Garcia. Yes, good afternoon to all. To tell you that our people receives with joy this initiative of the law of the National Executive, and that today is presented in first discussion. Firstly, this is a law that guarantees constitutional rights, that is established specifically in the third title of the Constitution of the Republic of Venezuela, in the Article 51, and this third title, it must be said, that is of the human rights. It is considered part of human rights, the right of asking of the citizens, and it says that all people have the right to represent or lead petitions facing any authorities, and likewise it has also the right to receiving an answer that is adequate and timely. So this is a law that contemplates and that protects our citizens' rights, of our people, of the citizens, the right of petitioning. So it is also a law that eliminates bureaucratic procedures, and that is part of the fight against corruption, because it eradicates the collection of corrupt funds. And also to say to the deputies that came before me, due to their concern of the faculties that are given to the National Executive in this law, first, that the first discussion is to consider the exposition of motives, evaluate the objectives, the reach, and the viability of the law, to determine its pertinence, that is established in Article 104 of the Rules of Interior and Debate, and invite you to, sorry, Deputy, I'm going to ask, there's a chatter here in the Parliament. Please pay attention to the debate that it is given. Thank you, Vice President, and invite you to participate in the consultation of our law. This National Assembly is committed in making good laws for our people, and all those laws that we have carried forward We have gone to consultations with our people to discuss them, to listen what are the opinions, the suggestions, and the proposals of the people. And you can join from your benches to discuss this law and also to participate in the meetings of the Commission to tell you that this law and clear to our people that in this law it includes mechanisms that allow the acceleration and the optimization of the administrative procedures in both of the efficiency of the state. How many times have we not gone, the citizens and the businessmen and women, to do any kind of procedures, and they ask for an amount of requisites that, as was well said, once they're completed, others have expired. It also contemplates this law to eliminate procedures that delay or make difficult the answers of the users. Also, as another concern that was presented by the bench of opposition, is to ordain the digitalizing of procedures and the reduction of the use of paper. So invite you to deepen in the content of the law, to accompany us in the discussion, in the public consultation, and in the second discussion of this law. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deputy Carolina Garcia. There's no one else noted in the right to speak in this point. Is going to close the debate. It is closed. In consideration, the honorable deputies and that are in favor of approving in the first discussion the project of organic law for the acceleration and optimization of the administrative procedures of the public administration in conformity with what has in the Article 104 of the Interior Rules of Debate of the National Assembly, manifested with the sign of custom. It has been approved. It is declared approved in first discussion the project of organic law for the acceleration and optimization of administrative procedures of the public administration, and it is sent to the Permanent Commission of Internal Politics for its second discussion in conformity with what is established in Article 104 of the National Assembly. Next point, Citizen Secretary exhausted the legislative matter. Citizen Vice President.
With the passing of 3 bills, such as the partial law reform, the partial reform of the organic law of the hydrocarbon law, and also the organic law for the protection of the socio-economic rights of the Venezuelan people. Also, there was a third law that was discussed today and was also passed. This organic law referred to the optimization of the work of the public administration. All of them proposed by Acting President Delcy Rodriguez, that also include sensitive topics for the people of Venezuela, that are also seeking to improve the well-being of the people and the equitable distribution of the wealth of the nation. This is all for the moment. Stay tuned with teleSUR English.